Hi, everybody. Happy Friday, and welcome back to Guild Chat. I'm your host, Ruby, and we're going to be talking about the baby dragon Aurene today and her design and story and implementation in Guild Wars 2. So we're going to go ahead and jump right in. I'll let our developer guests introduce themselves, just let you talk about who you are and what you did to bring Aurene into the game.
I am Kevin Freeman, game designer.
Welcome back.
Thank you. I worked on the precocious Aurene instance for episode 3, Cracking the Ice.
Nice.
Ross Bealey, narrative designer, mostly just figuring out her role in our world, I guess.
Ronald Curry, creature artist, grappled their ideas and turned it into something visual, pretty much.
Awesome. Thank you guys for coming and spending some time today. I know you all have a lot to do.
And it's snowing.
And it's snowing, and we all want to get outside and play in the snow because it's going to be like 5 more years of predicting snow that doesn't actually happen here before we get real snow again. So let's just go ahead and jump in. I want to talk first about story and how this got started. Can we talk a little bit about the first conversation between your teams, between narrative and design, and the initial ideas, when this happened and how we got started?
Yeah, I mean, I came on in the middle of Heart of Thorns, and we had already had this egg at this point. So, you know, we knew sometime in the future we're going to have to pay off this egg. So, kind of when Hot was wrapping up is when we started having our first conversations of, okay, this thing will hatch at some point. What is it going to look like? What's it going to be? And that's when we basically, myself and the narrative director who was here at the time, went to Ronald and like started opening up that kind of window of conversation of, hey, so, you know, it's one of Glint's eggs, who was a lieutenant of Kralkatorrik, but at the end of Hot absorbed all this Mortarmoth energy, so we want to kind of get all these kind of themes, you know, in one tiny little baby dragon. That's how it kind of started.
And you were telling me there was more and more getting piled on, and it was super simple and not a problem at all.
Well, the ideas always start very simple. Like, we always start with, like, oh yeah, we're going to make this like a very pretty creature. We're going to make a baby dragon, and it's going to be based off this specific dragon, which was Glint. And so the first thing that we do is we look for the previous reference and see like how much, because we need to update the graphics. We can't just go back into the old model, but we need to make it cooler and more adapted to the new art style. So it's like, how much do we adapt? How do we keep it consistent and recognizable? Mm-hmm. And it was kind of a challenge because the first thoughts that I had on it was like, okay, we're gonna make a baby dragon, or it started as a dragon, and then turn it into a baby dragon. But because we didn't have a dragon rig for creatures, only wyverns at the time, I had to design a full-grown dragon and then kind of shrink it. So the process started from then, and then it turned into, it's going to be a baby dragon, so make it cute. It's going to be a girl baby dragon, so make it female and cute, you know. And then also make it look like Mortarmoth, but have elements of Kralkatorrik and have elements of, you know,
there's just a lot going into this tiny little creature.
Yeah, so it was...
Yeah, and interestingly enough, I was blissfully unaware of this fact, but wyvern, their hands are part of their wings, and dragons, 4 feet, wings. That was the creature model consideration, that you're like, oh no, we'll just put it on. Oh, yeah, no, they are different.
This is a problem.
Yeah.
So we actually had to get a lot more people working on it. It was going to be like, oh yeah, just another model that goes in specific area, but no, we needed riggers and animators and new animators and this whole...
Yeah, well, we've talked before on episodes of Guild Chat how we take rigs that we already have for creatures and just kind of repurpose them for new creatures. This is the first time I've heard about us creating an entirely new rig for something. So that's interesting to me. That tacked on a lot of time, I'm assuming.
It did.
That sounds like...
It did. And it took a lot of planning. As I said, one of the things that we looked for in the new dragon rig was we can't just make a brand new rig just for baby dragons because we're not going to have that many baby dragons. But if we do an adult dragon and we retrofit it to get a baby, we can actually get a much more reusable rig. So in case we decide to ever use or ever make dragons, we have now a rig that we can use.
I saw that look. Don't get me in trouble.
I mean, there's always dogs. I mean, it's Guild Wars, so.
Yeah, I mean, that's...
There are dragons in this? Oh, no.
I
yeah.
have heard.
Yeah.
I've heard rumors.
Right.
I'm mostly just saving myself at this point. You guys are on your own.
I said nothing.
That's interesting you said that as far as dragons versus wyverns and the design. As soon as you said that, it's one of those things that I'd never really consciously paid attention to.
Yeah.
But as soon as you said it, I went,
Same here.
oh, yeah. Hey. Well, that probably makes a little bit of a difference for you.
So you're asking us before, like, what are like some of the complications of like
Yeah.
the design process? One of the biggest complications that we had during the process was how to pronounce wyvern. So people pronounce
Oh,
like
gosh,
wyvern
that
or wyverns,
please.
and then it was
Oh,
like
that
the,
argument.
the GIF and GIF argument.
Oh,
Okay,
dear.
you can have the wyvern pronunciation argument, or you can have the GIF versus GIF argument. We do not have time for both because I want to go home at some point today, and I don't want to sit here until Saturday or Sunday. We can only have one of those arguments, or we can have none of those arguments, and I'm fine with that third option.
Yeah, I'm
I will-
none. I'm going to go with none.
Great. Okay, so you had mentioned all of these little elements that had to go into this baby dragon. You have Glint is her mom, so you've got this crystal dragon element, and then there's the Mordrum going in there. So there's this combination of like crystal and plant that somehow worked out really well. After you told me that, I spent a lot of time in the personal instance, in the precocious Aurene instance, just like walking little circles in her, asking her to please stop running around. So thanks for that. It's adorable, but when I want her to hold still, it's kind of a problem.
I don't know what you're talking about.
How did you even find that balance and make it work out so well? Was it hard?
So during the sculpting process, I actually did different passes. There's a couple of renders I think we have.
Oh yeah, we can look at those while we're talking too.
Yeah, it would help. So there were different treatments that we had for the skin. This is when I got the base model kind of working and started working on the rig, because you don't want to get too in depth with the model before you have it functioning well.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can't have just like a specific pose. And the one thing that I particularly like to do for modeling is to pose it a little bit to get a little bit of the physicality of the model innate into the mesh. But yeah, there were different passes on the leather texture of the skin, or the kind of thick wooden kind of quality that Mordramoth had, and we didn't want to go too detailed. We didn't want to go too old. We had, as you said, Mordramoth was undead and plants and thorns, and then we had the crystal elements, and then we had the dragon elements, and we had a little bit of the undead element, and it was just a juggling act of like, okay, where do we put this? How much do we accentuate one thing over another? So the main things were it's a dragon. It comes from Glint. The face definitely resembles Mordramoth. Some of the sculpting that happened on the neck and the tail and the essence of the body has a lot of the elements of Mordramoth in itself. We decided to remove some of the thorniness around because it would just make it way too busy.
Yeah,
And,
there's a lot going on, but it's just enough at this point.
yeah, I mean the most important thing when designing something is just to make it look how you would expect it to look. If it looks good and it translates the ideas that you want to convey with the model, like it's influenced by Mordramoth, and it is a crystal dragon, and it is a baby, and hopefully is cute, then mission accomplished.
Yeah, and I remember, like, normally we will go back and forth, like they'll submit like a concept and we go, oh, maybe a little bit more of this because of these story points or this. And I feel like this was just like one or two things that we saw and we're just like, oh yeah, that's her. Yeah, you got her.
Yeah, there's
Like, it was-
very little conflict on this one. It was
Yeah.
like
It just,
smooth sailing.
they just got it right. It was great.
It works. Okay, so I have to ask, speaking of her being cute, I've just been watching a lot of player reaction and talking to the community since she hatched back in September. And there's been, and it's the majority of the player base that I've heard, and this is totally anecdotal, I haven't done like polls or anything. The majority of the player base is just, oh my God, this is the greatest thing, this is adorable. But there are some players who are like, this is a dragon. Why is it cute? I don't understand why this thing is cute. This should be a shrunken model of an adult dragon and scary and not. How did you come down on the side of, yes, this is a baby, it should look like a baby, instead of this is a dragon, make it scary?
I don't know. It just, if you look in nature, most even scary things when they're tiny are cute. Even little tiny squids or anything, you're just like, oh, look at that little tiny squid.
You can't not,
maybe it's
right?
just me. I don't
No,
know.
it's really not.
But we wanted people to have an emotional attachment to her and feel the bond that the commander feels with the dragon. So, I mean, you're not, what's the Abraham Lincoln? You can please some of the people some of the time, but not all the people all the time.
Yeah, and not everybody's going to like not every player is going to like every piece of content. We've always said that, and that's totally fine.
Yeah. So we just shot for what we wanted, and we, as far as I'm concerned, like hit it out of the park. Everybody did a really great job, and it's, even coming from a narrative perspective, like, it's tough to like say, oh, this is her character yet because she's so young and undeveloped, but just seeing what she looks like gives her character. Scripting her and the animators making her do something in an instance with you gives her character, and like it's all like coming together in a really, really nice way, I think.
That's true. Actually, big props to the animators. I mean, they're the ones that bring everything to life. I just make a shell, but be this. It wasn't being so cute in game.
Yeah, her animation has been incredible. I'd like to talk about that a little bit. Just her setup and movement. We talked about her rig some. There are a couple of specific postures that I noted right away as I was interacting with her in the last couple story instances that she featured in. And though there were a few that stood out to me, and I didn't know if there were some maybe that I hadn't caught or that I had missed. Right after she hatched and everything was under attack, she went into that defensive posture where she head down a little bit, hissing, tail up over her back. And the one that everybody has been freaking out over when she's happy and she sits down and does the little patting on the ground. Whose idea, where did these come from? Was this kind of a collaborative thing?
Chuck.
Because those were so much fun.
Yeah, I think Chuck was doing most of that stuff. Who, if you haven't seen him and had him on, he's a large man with a burly beard
I asked
that
him,
knows cute
I asked
real
him
well.
too.
I know.
And
Chuck. Yeah.
Chuck.
We asked.
Yeah,
We've been trying to drag him in front of the camera, but
he's a master of bringing that stuff out because it apparently worked.
For the paw thing, he asked us what we wanted, and we just said we want a short little animation sequence for her to do when she's happy or pleased. And that was pretty much all we told him. He was like, okay. He went off. A couple days later, he came back. I have this. How does this look? And everyone just melted. So
And also, and we should also give props to the audio team too, because we kind of came with them with this at them with the same request of like, we need her to sound like she's happy. We need her to sound like she's sad. We need her to sound like she's scared. By the way, she's not going to talk. And you need to make all these sound effects of like
Good luck.
emotion.
yeah. Yeah.
And then I ran away as quick as possible. And then they actually came back with stuff that I was like, oh, she sounds sad. That's
works.
great. Yeah.
the audio team, we've talked to them a lot before on the show. The audio team works miracles. And
They do.
I go in there and I talk to them. I'm like, yeah, we had this old milk carton and a really big rubber band. And we did the whole boss with these two things, and there was a squeaky, and we found the squeaky door. So yeah. I don't know. I think they're casting spells, but yeah.
Once we heard, because like when we were developing Kevin's instance, once Aaron, the one of the other writers, and I like heard the sounds, we were like, okay, we have to do a little bit of rewriting where she talks to you, because it was just like too great to like miss the opportunity of her to like acknowledge something that you're saying, so we're like, we got to put that in.
Yeah.
Which part was that? Do you remember offhand?
I don't remember. It's just like,
Was it where you're
don't you
trying-
think, Aurene? And she like affirmatively is like, let's go, or
Yeah.
whatever.
I
But
need
it
her
just
to do
sounds,
that.
it just sounds like you're like, yeah, she's understanding us,
I'm assuming it's when you're trying to tell her, please don't eat the fish. It's literally for starving orphans.
A lot of those back and forth with Aurene wasn't originally there, but then they like he was saying, put that in after they heard the really great audio that they made.
Yeah, they do incredible work. So huge shout out to the audio team
Yeah.
because everything they've put out has just been so impressive. So, the attack posture, I'm assuming, was the same. Came from Chuck. He just worked miracles. I need to ask him if he has a cat because I feel like maybe he went home and looked at a pet and was like, yeah, this is the thing that we need to do. So I want to talk a little bit about the interactions inside the precocious Aurene instances, like the hide and seek, and some of the training, because you talked a little bit, I asked you last week about what did you study, what did you do to come up with what kind of training, and you touched on it a little bit, and I wanted to have you expand on that some.
Okay.
How did you decide, what are we going to teach her?
All right. Well, like I mentioned last week, I first went and looked at some codes of chivalry and Bushido codes and child development theories. And what I learned right off the bat was Bushido is way more strict than I was ever anticipating.
Really?
Yes, and it's a little more unquestioning loyalty than I was expecting. But what the two, like codes of chivalry and Bushido, have a lot in common in terms of being loyal and helping people who are less fortunate than you, then coming to the defense of people who can't defend for themselves. And that's pretty much what kind of got the ball rolling for me. And you take the really big points of helping those who are in need and defending those who are in need, and that just kind of went from there.
That's such, I don't want to say it's like a weird mix. It's just such a different mix between chivalry, child development, but somehow it fits for teaching a baby dragon how to be a hero.
Yeah, that was the other tricky thing, because now that you have these points of, all right, these are kind of the values and morals that we want to get across, then the child development stuff came in, and how do you present this to a still developing mind that does not necessarily grasp these big concepts innately, and that's primarily why I kind of went down the route of using the exalted holographic projection type imagery. So it was still playful without there being an actual sense of danger. So like the in this case the child Aurene was never really in any danger, so she never really felt like her life was in threat. And that allows the child to pay more attention or be more impressionable for the lessons that you're trying to teach. I mean, if they're not worried about, oh my gosh, I'm going to be hit by this car at any minute.
This is true. It turns out if they aren't worried about being hit by a car, they are more apt to listen to your lessons.
Right, yes, exactly.
This is a true thing.
Now that I've heard Kevin say that, I'm really glad we removed the how to make a pizza part, because that sounds super trivial on top of what you were talking about. So
Yeah.
that's good.
Yeah, the pizza
That
maker.
was a good call.
Yeah.
Can we have the pizza making instance later though? Because that sounds incredible. And
Yeah.
I would love to. I would play that. I would play
It's
the
just
heck out of that.
Aurene spinning pizzas on the little crystals on her back.
Oh my goodness.
You
It's
just
not a-
committed
that's
to,
not a
no, you just committed to that.
Yeah.
I need to see that. Somebody go get
animation
Chuck
team
right
is gonna
now.
love you.
Go get Chuck. Let him know.
Chuck probably is somewhere going, whoa, whoa, what the?
No, he's waiting
just
at your
happened?
desk.
Yeah.
What were you going to say?
I was for those who have gone back into the instance and seen the playing catch. That
Yes.
it might not seem like a big deal on the surface, but there's a really big difference psychologically between the idea of playing catch with a child and playing fetch with a pet. And originally people were saying play fetch, and that was something that I really tried to break, because we're trying to present Aurene as an intelligent creature and one that you're trying to guide, and that kind of breaks down if I'm playing fetch with my pet dog. It's a completely different mindset. But playing catch with a child is something that helps in that bonding process as well.
Oh, wow.
So that was a really big difference for me anyway. Like, I was really adamant about that being not fetch.
That is a huge difference. It's such a tiny little thing in one word and one change to the game that you're playing with her that makes all the difference in how you're interacting with her.
Oh, side note.
Wow, you feel really strongly about this.
Well, it's another Chuck thing, so that's why I'm excited about it, because Chuck is awesome. And the in the playing catch where Aurene throws the ball back at you, she does this little jump to throw the ball back at you.
Yeah.
That was something that he did, like, unofficially on the side in his spare time, because we didn't have enough time to get all of the animations that we wanted. And he was like, but he said, I feel so strongly about this, and I think it's so cute that I'm just going to put this in on my own time and try to get this to work.
Yeah.
And so bless Chuck.
Yeah, I had
He's
noticed
amazing.
that I was pretty far away when I first played catch with her, and I had noticed, I was like, wait a minute, she's like flattening her head down and her wings are coming out. What's going on? So I kept throwing the ball, and I'd like get a little closer and get a little closer. It's like, how close can I get where I can get a really good look at this thing?
Well,
It
in
was-
episode
it was
4,
good.
she's also going to be scouted by a major league scout. So, like, oh, spoiler.
Well, isn't that guy gonna have to fight with the head
But
chef?
she's
Yeah.
and she's going to be scouted while she's making pizzas.
Yeah.
Is-
Oh my God.
Well, that's like her road to, like, she was just a lowly pizza maker in this village, and then she got brought up to the big leagues. I'm pitching it to Fox next week. So.
we're committing to some weird stuff today, but
Story's
I'm
going in weird
strangely
directions.
okay with it.
Yeah.
I actually had this moment as you said that about episode 4, like, what are you doing?
Ross, you idiot!
No, I was mostly like, dude, that's all you. I'm looking at my notes and there's nothing about this here, so I'm covered. But I do like the storyline. Please let me know how it works out. And
Yeah.
do not leave out the
I
pizza
will
making
from the
because
unemployment line. I'll let you know. I'll tell
I
you how
wanna-
that fanfic goes in my head.
I just want to see her. I'm really stuck on the idea of her spinning pizzas on either the crystals or the wingtips. I'm just not getting past how hilarious that would be
Yeah.
if nothing else comes out of this live stream
Dragon
today.
Pizza Mama. That's
Our entire living world took the weirdest left turn today.
It sure did.
It just went super strange. So I meant to mention earlier, we are going to take questions at the end. So if you've got them, put them in chat. I want to talk about a couple of extra things that are maybe story, definitely precocious Aurene. We are bringing her gifts to put on her little pedestals, which is super fun, by the way. I love filling those out and, oh, look at all the cool things I've got for her. How did you guys decide what to put in there? Because it's all, here's stuff from the outside world.
I'm going to let Kevin do this one.
All right, so it was an idea that all right. So Aurene is pretty much locked inside of this area. She can't leave.
Is it because we're mean or
No, it's for her own protection.
Okay.
They're still protecting her, and
just making sure?
so she can't leave. But we still, there are two things that kind of went into this. First, you can't really build a bond with someone when you just spend 45 minutes with them one time and then walk away. All right, see you later. Oh, I just, you're right here. Love you. That doesn't really happen. So
See you next Christmas.
See you next Christmas. So we wanted to make sure that there were opportunities for the player to go back and interact with Aurene repeatedly. And additionally, so that was the first motivation. The second motivation is she's in Trier. That is the sum total of her experience is Trier.
Yeah.
So if we want her to appreciate the cultures of the world, or the races of the world, and not see them as food.
Important. Super important.
That's what's on our pizzas.
Ah!
Then I kind of wanted an opportunity to piggyback on this, wanting to bring the player back. It's like, okay, well, if the player is collecting cultural trinkets from the major races and bringing them back, and be like, here, let me expose you to the world in some fashion, at least. I mean, as we all know, souvenirs are not the experience of the world, but it is an experience of the world, and much more than what she has locked in Trier. So the player brings these cultural souvenirs. I almost said artifacts. Wrong word.
Just bringing her some fridge magnets.
And by these souvenirs, we expose her to the cultures of at least some aspect of the cultures of the
So
world.
on a side note, growing up, my parents used to tell me the way to experience a culture is through eating their culture. So maybe we're into something with the whole pizza thing.
Right, the pizza thing.
We need to bring her food from all.
It's gonna be she's just gonna
I'm sorry.
misunderstand and be like, I thought you meant eat the culture.
I thought you meant eat the culture. Well, that was going to be another thing. Like if you notice in the helping the needy encounter at the very end, your quest contact gives you some food back, saying, "Oh, this is so much food. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Here's
There's
some
extra.
for you. Yeah, there's extra food," and that was actually supposed to be kind of a breadcrumb for a larger thing of also
Really?
getting food from around the world and bringing that back to Aurene. But
Really?
yeah, that unfortunately didn't get in.
Is that why you made that face just
Yeah.
now? I'm sorry. I
Yeah.
didn't know that. I was like, oh gosh, what did I just do?
It's the scope face.
Oh, that's scope face. Gotcha. Okay. Are you
That's-
okay? Do you need a moment?
Yeah. Okay.
That's the face when you return from the magical land in your head where everything is possible.
Everything is possible.
And we have unlimited
infinite technology.
Yes,
Yeah.
infinite technology and literal magic powers.
Yes.
So, all right. Is there anything else about Aurene and her design and creation that you guys want to pass on?
Not really.
No, not really.
Oh, I do have one more question about precocious Aurene that I forgot to write down, but her hide and
off
seek.
script.
I don't really care that much. That's okay. I can do that if I want to. Her hide and seek game at the beginning, was that just a way of, like, since she's a little kid, of getting her wiggles out and so she can settle down and be serious?
Yeah, that ended up being kind of a demonstration of her playfulness. She's still a child, and a way for to show the commander gently leading the child into school time, as opposed
Okay.
to just being demanding. You play with her a little bit, and you're like, okay, well, we've played a little bit. I did something for you. Now you can do something for
Okay.
me. Let's go and
Yeah, we
Yeah.
didn't
Yes.
want it to instantly be like, I'm here, where's my death machine?
Right.
You know, like, you had to
Fair enough.
ease into that.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Yeah, I kind of wondered about that because I liked her playing around like, hey, look, I can be invisible. Find me. Bye. And you're like, okay, let's do this. Because as a parent, I've experienced that. Yes, okay, we will play, but we seriously have stuff to do. So let's play for a little bit, but really, really got to do this in a little bit. So that was kind of a fun and familiar thing to see. And I was sort of hoping that's where that was going. I was like, or am I missing an important lesson here? Sorry. All right, so we're going to take a short break, and I'll let you guys ask some questions, and we'll be right back in a few minutes. Thank you, guys.
Quaggin, deep thought. Everybody is unique. Quaggin has to remember not to laugh when Quaggin sees the silly way. Char swim because it could hurt Char's feelings and Char might stab Quaggin with pointy metal. Fu. Trust is a virtue. Fu. Not all bubbles are good bubbles. Enjoy yourself. Cool. A friendly human taught me a name song. Boop doop, boop doop, boop doop. Banana fana, foop doop. Fee fi, moop doop, boop doop. Be yourself. Quaggin wants to drink human tonic, so Quaggin can run around saying, "Look at Quaggin! Look at Quaggin! Quaggin is human." But Quaggin would only be pretending. Let go. Look forward. If Shark eats Quaggin's tiny shrimp, Quaggin should just let it go because it's inside Shark's belly already. And what is Quaggin going to do? Tiny shrimp is gone forever. Always consider the possibilities. Quaggin doesn't understand sneezing because no bubbles come out. Quaggin thinks sneezing is weird. Emotions are scary. Quaggin doesn't like going into murderous berserker rages. Unless tiny shrimp are involved, then Quaggin thinks it might be justified.
All right, we have questions from Lady Aurene. Why did you choose the name Aurene? Does it mean anything special?
I think primarily it was based on the coloring that we were kind of landing on, because she has this green turquoise,
This green, blue, gold.
green, blue, gold
Yeah.
kind of thing, and that's there's like Aurene glass, that's kind of the spectrum that it runs.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So I think that was primarily it.
All right. That was a good thing to land on, and it kind of works for her.
Yeah.
How about, okay, I'm going to need somebody to have written this down. How long has the idea of Aurene been around? Get out your calendars.
Yeah. Let me see. Specific date. I don't know. It's tough to say because, once we had Glent's egg, there's always the notion that it was going to pay off and hatch. So when was it, specifically, when we were thinking Aurene? I guess it was just kind of the end of Hot when we were wrapping that up.
Mm-hmm.
And having those first conversations is kind of when she...
In that general time, yeah, it's hard to nail
Gestated.
that down because these conversations go on for a long time and there's a ton of planning.
Yeah.
In that time frame, though.
Yep.
Okay, that works. Why was the Shatterer rig not reused instead of making a new rig? Was it too old?
No, actually, well, the reason why we didn't necessarily have a dragon rig, which was a whole separation of dragons and wyverns, was mostly because the way that we create creatures are separated between creature rigs and prop creatures or prop bosses. And so the Shatterer is actually a prop, which can actually have a lot more stuff on it versus a creature which is consolidated into specific directory and specific rigs. And so it turns out all our dragons were gigantic dragons. We didn't have any small dragons. For the specific reason we needed a small dragon. So,
Okay.
but we wanted to reuse the rig. So
Right.
we made a brand new rig for it.
Okay, so something actually meant to be small
Yeah.
and also reusable.
Yes.
Okay, this is an excellent question. Can Aurene be made into a ranger pet? Lol.
Not
Who
up to
wants
me.
I can take this one. No. Come on, you guys. Do you want that many Aurenes? Well, okay. Yes, you want that many Aurenes running around, but we can't do that. I'm asking the wrong questions here. We can't do that. I'm sorry. All right. How about question number 6? Other than being influenced by the absorbed Elder Dragon magic, is there another reason why Aurene looks cuter as a hatchling than her older sibling Gleam did as a hatchling in Guild Wars 1?
Well, as you mentioned, in nature usually happens that babies are cuter. It's kind of like a natural instinct that is evoked in the parents to protect this defenseless child. So you want it to be cute. If this vicious-looking like shows up, you're probably not going to be like, "Oh, that's cute," and I want to protect it. You're probably going to think, "Kill it with fire." So
This is true.
it's mostly because of the character the design has. Like, if you look at her just by itself, she's not pretty. Like, let's be honest.
Yeah.
She looks like, whatever. But
Yeah, she's not. We were talking about that. Or aesthetically speaking, she's not pretty.
yeah,
like you
she's
said.
got like mangletooths everywhere and like gigantic like.
I don't
huge
recommend
pupil
hugging her.
eyes. Yeah, like she's still dangerous.
It's gonna suck for you.
But her demeanor, like the personality that comes out, is childish, playful, non-vicious type of thing. So you need to translate that
Yeah.
a little bit.
And in Guild Wars 1, Gleam's model, I believe, that was just a really scaled down version of the adult model.
Yes. So now we're
As I
talking
could-
about the technology that we had at the time
Right.
and the resources that we had at the
Yeah.
time. So now we're actually able to put a little bit more of an investment into.
Yeah, we have better stuff now.
Yeah.
So, all right, I believe that is our last. That's the last question we have. So, I will tell you guys, thank you very much for spending some time and talking about our new baby dragon in the game. And thank you guys for coming and watching the show. And make sure you follow us on Twitch and subscribe on YouTube if you're watching this later. We will see you on the next Guild Chat. Have a good weekend. Bye. Thanks, guys.
Sure.